Hello and welcome to a new episode of I Can Do. I hope all is well with you. Let's get right into it. I know your time is very important, and I appreciate you listening to this episode. Today, I want to talk about taking long walks. Take a long walk. I think sometimes walking may be underrated by a lot of people. But if you think about walking, and I want to talk about this, looking at walking from a couple of different views. One, from a fitness standpoint, walking is something that all of us do practically every day, hopefully every day to some degree. We know that there's a lot of data out there about getting at least 10,000 steps a day. Maybe that's not the exact measurement, but we know that moving our bodies is going to benefit us long term. We know that there is evidence as well that after you eat a meal, for example, if you take a walk, a short walk, doesn't have to be anything intense, but that will also help out with glucose levels as well. Taking a walk does a lot of great things, and I want to encourage you to start taking long walks. A couple of years ago, I really got into walking more. This past year, a little more than a year, I have been doing a lot more long distance running, but I still walk and run typically most times when I go out. When I go walking, it's typically with my dog Teddy, and he certainly he doesn't like to walk necessarily. He wants to sprint as fast as possible, which is all good. So there are a lot of just benefits with walking from a fitness standpoint. It gets your body moving, it's free, it gets you outside. Taking a walk first thing in the morning, getting sunlight on your eyes is going to help regulate your circadian rhythm as well. Getting at least 15 minutes of just free vitamin D on your body from the sun is going to go a long way. And you can do that simply by taking a long walk. But you may be thinking, well, 15 minutes, that's not really a long walk. And you're right, that's not too long at all. But there are other benefits as well of just going on a walk. And there are certain ways that we should be experimenting when it comes to a walk. Maybe this is you. Do you ever see yourself doing this where you go outside and maybe you want to get the vitamin D and the sunlight on your eyes and you want to help your digestion after you get done eating a big meal, but you are preoccupied even as you're walking? Maybe you're listening to a podcast. Maybe you're listening to music. Maybe you're scrolling on social media, even though you are taking some steps and getting that done. What's the chance, or what if you did something different? I have been challenged with this for sure because for years, going back, I think to high school and even before, I would typically, and I still do, listen to music when I go for a run or when I go for a walk. But I started experimenting even more. Talking to one of my previous guests on the show, Janine Grayson, and she gave me some insight and some challenges as well about going for a walk without any music. Another guest, Jim Bro, talks about this as well, and he talked about always challenging our minds. One of the big challenges is learning to get comfortable in silence. Walking is a great opportunity to experiment, to see how you handle this kind of situation and quietness. So I want to encourage you, take long walks. And as you do, not only can you help yourself physically, but you can also help yourself mentally. Experiment and see, can you go for a 5-minute walk without listening to any music? Can you do a 10-minute walk without any music or distractions? Can you just allow the scenery, the neighborhood, the walking path, the nice weather, your dog, your spouse, or your child that's walking with you to be enough? There are a lot of benefits of going on long walks, and you can turn these long walks into a mental challenge as well. But I believe there's also spiritual benefits. Let me tell you what I mean. In Acts chapter 20 and verse number 13, we see in Acts 20 and verse 13, the Apostle Paul, Paul is traveling, and this has been a passage that has caught my attention for a really long time. The Bible says, "But we, going ahead to the ship, set sail for Assos, intending from there to take Paul on board. For so he had arranged it, intending himself to go by land." I find that verse interesting because when you start looking at where Paul was going to start walking and where he would end up, where he would meet up with Luke and the other disciples, it's about a 20-mile trip for Paul, that he's going to walk this trip by himself. Now, maybe he stopped off, maybe he looked for opportunities to teach other people. That certainly could be the case. But I'm wondering if Paul did that intentionally to have some solitude for himself, to have time to pray for himself alone. He had been around a lot of people. He had just got done preaching. I wonder if he did that intentionally to have quiet time with God. There is something there for us to really think about as we think about walking, how we can use walking to pray, to meditate, to figure out maybe challenges that we're having in our lives. Maybe even some of them are spiritual challenges that we need to go to God, or that we need to be considering His Word to see how we might be able to overcome them. I am revisiting a book called Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport. It's an interesting book, and I read it maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I'm going back and taking some time to look at it. He actually talks about walking in that book as well. There's a definition that he gives that a lot of people struggle with today. It's called solitude deprivation. Solitude deprivation. This is a state in which you spend close to zero time alone with your thoughts and free from input from other minds. Think about that. Solitude deprivation. A state in which you spend close to zero time alone with your own thoughts and free from input from other minds. Do you see how taking a long walk could help you to make sure that you have the necessary solitude? Without Facebook, without Instagram, without a podcast, without music, without anything, just you and your thoughts, you talking to God. That is a powerful exercise, prescription tool that I think a lot of people really need. So if you find yourself in solitude deprivation, well, taking a long walk can help you go a long way to have that solitude. I'm curious what you think about this. Do you see the benefit of walking, getting outside, fresh air, exercise, connecting with friends, with families, with pets? Do you see the benefit of taking a long walk to connect with your God in heaven, to connect with yourself, to really have time to think, to ponder, and to consider? I hope that you will take a long walk here very soon. Take care, and God bless.